Hi everyone, I'm Emily. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the top 9 films I watched in 2017. First, I want to clarify that it's not necessarily films that were released in 2017. It's just that films I watched this year that I think are worth sharing on this channel. And I'm going to split the 9 films I want to recommend into 3 categories. The first one is Mandarin/Cantonese, the second one's French, and then the third one is English. First, I'm going to talk about the Chinese films. Since I went back to China this summer, I got to go into the Chinese cinema and see what's on the market. One of the hottest movies this summer in China was 绣春刀修罗战场 Brotherhood of the Blades 2. It's actually the prequel to the first one, so you didn't need to watch the first one to understand the second one. It's set in the 1600s Ming Dynasty in China. An imperial guard got himself caught in this conspiracy, and he's trying to search for the truth with the help of this very talented and politically active artist called Beizhai. To be honest, the story itself isn't that fascinating, but I think what makes this movie really stand out is the martial arts in the film and also the internal struggles that each character has. The director adapted a really realistic approach to the fighting scenes, so they're very fun and engaging to watch. And since it's set in such a troubled time in China, it's interesting to see how each character tries to uphold their morals and beliefs while trying to figure out a way to survive. Next up, we have a war film, 明月几时有 Our Time Will Come. It's about this resistance group, specifically a really young elementary school teacher, how they fought against the Japanese occupation forces in Hong Kong in the 1940s. I'm usually not a huge fan of war films, but somehow this summer I decided to go check it out in the theaters, and it definitely did not disappoint. It's not your typical war film, I'd say, because you know, when people think of war heroes, they think of people who actually fought on the battlefield, like the soldiers, but this one, it's not another gory tragedy, you know? It's more like an emotional salute to the ordinary civilians during wartime who contributed to war efforts in their own very quiet but significant way. And this movie is very engaging, and it definitely takes you back to Hong Kong in 1941 by showing you the streets, the houses, the sceneries, and talking about the romance, friendship, mentorship, mother-daughter relationship. It really has everything, so it's definitely worth watching. This next film takes the audience down a very winding path. It was released in 1996, and it's about 2 people who came to Hong Kong from mainland China to fulfill their life goals. So the guy, he wanted to make money so he can send money back home and then eventually marry his girlfriend. And the girl, she came to Hong Kong to also make money so that she can build a house for her mother. Their storylines are very different, but somehow they intertwine, and you never really know which direction it's going, just like life. I guess that's the message the movie is trying to send. And if you're feeling nostalgic, you should definitely check this film out, especially if you have a Chinese background or you're familiar with Chinese culture, because you'll know that this film is actually named after a really famous song by one of the most celebrated singers in China, Deng Lijun. And even though I wasn't necessarily born in that era, or I wasn't really familiar with that when I was a kid, but I've known that song for a very long time, and it means a lot to me too in some way. So even if you don't know the song, I think the fact that they included it in the movie made it so much better, so you should definitely go check it out. Now moving on to the French films I watched this year. So the first one is called, I'm gonna pronounce this in the very American way because I don't want to say it in French and then say it the wrong way. Jean Dielman, 23 Commerce Quay, 2080 Brussels. So this film absolutely blew my mind, and I'm not exaggerating at all. It's about this widow who's living with her son, and then every day she just does these really mundane activities like cooking, washing, grocery shopping, and she's also a part-time prostitute. She's pretty content with her life until she started experiencing interruptions to her routines, and that's when it all went down. And this film is definitely not for everyone. It's 4 hours long, and it's not like your typical Hollywood blockbuster film. So you should definitely take your time to watch this movie. You might like it, you might hate it. In the end, I liked it, but since it's 4 hours long, some people might think it's too much to handle, but I think if it's any second shorter, it wouldn't have the same effect the director wanted in the end. I was definitely very shook after this movie. Shook is the only word I can say, but it's worth watching. If you're a movie lover, go check it out. It's great. The next film is Clio from 5 to 7, directed by Agnes Varda. It's about a rising pop star with a few hit singles, and she's waiting for her doctor to tell her whether she has cancer or not. It documents her actions, experience, journey from 5 to 7 o'clock as she waits for this life or death verdict. It's an existential movie that makes you start pondering life. It makes you, like, after watching the movie, start thinking about, oh, like, what's the meaning of life? It's that type of movie. And I think the most interesting part of the movie to me is when she meets this soldier who's on leave from the Algerian War, and they have some conversations, and you can see how Clio transforms and finally be at peace with herself. So it's very thought-provoking, so you should definitely check it out. Now moving on to films that are in English. First one is Coco by Disney. If you watched my Thanksgiving vlog, you know I spent like a solid amount of time talking about how much I love the movie. It's about this little boy with a dream of becoming a world-famous singer, but his entire family hates music. So he goes on this journey to pursue his dream, and he stumbles into the land of the dead, where he meets a lot of interesting people, and then there's like music, singing, dancing, tears, like every single Disney movie has. But this movie definitely made it into probably my top 5 Disney movie, I'd say. It's really good. It's insane how detailed the animation is and how much thought Pixar put into this, because if you've seen this movie, the Land of the Dead is actually built based on the history of Mexico from bottom to the top, and I was very lucky that I got to listen to one of the animators of Coco to talk about this whole painstaking but very fun process, and I'm just really impressed by how much effort they put into investigating the history and culture of Mexico to make it authentic. It's a great film to watch with your family. So the next film is dark, very dark, but I love it so much. Even if you didn't see the movie this year, you probably heard all the hype around Get Out, directed by Jordan Peele. It's about this young black man who went to his white girlfriend's parents' house for the weekend, and then a series of very strange and disturbing events happened. I loved it not only because it's a very enthralling thriller with jump scares and like mind-blowing realizations, but also because it's a huge call out to 21st century racism. It's one of these movies that'll get you thinking about it for days, like its social implications and the little details the director included in the film. I was like, how is this a directorial debut? It's so good. It does get kind of gory and disturbing at some point, but you can just cover your eyes. It's an experience. You should definitely go check it out. Next up, we have Moonlight. Most people know Moonlight because of the terrible Oscars mix-up this year, but not that many people have actually watched it. But after they won Best Picture, I was like, okay, I gotta go check this out. So the movie is about this young black man, and it splits his life into 3 different chapters: youth, adolescence, and adulthood. I think this movie is worth watching because it bravely explores a topic that most people avoid talking about because it's so sensitive and controversial. It reveals the sensitivity, weakness, and emotions that come with manhood in a very blunt and honest way. And I think these movies are very important, and more people should go into the movie theaters to check it out, because these are the movies that explore the difficult topics and are actually socially important. Last but not least, my favorite, Lady Bird. It's another great directorial debut we have this year. It's by Greta Gerwig, and she created this really great, heartwarming coming-of-age story. It's about a high school senior who grew up in Sacramento, and she's desperate to go to the East Coast for college, and she gave herself the name Lady Bird. I know the character and setting and everything sounds very cliche and overdone, but I guarantee you that this movie is anything but cliche. It's funny, it's heartwarming, and it reveals the ugliness, mistakes, and downfalls that every teenager experiences. I went to watch this movie with my mom and I was actually crying in the theater because it hit me so hard. It's a very honest and enjoyable coming of age film, so you should definitely go check it out. That's it for the top 9 films I watched in 2017. They all have very different styles, bring out different emotions, and are created for drastically different purposes. But I hope you found one that you're interested in and that you'll go check it out. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year. Bye!